Hello everyone. Let us continue with our Python class. This is chapter 3, working with functions. In this chapter, we are going to cover the following topics: understanding functions, defining functions in Python, flow of execution in a function call, passing parameters, returning values from functions, composition, and scope of variables. But in this particular uh, video, we will be able to cover only up to passing parameters, and the following topics, returning values from function, composition, and scope of variables, will be covered in the next video. So let's look into what is a function and their definition. A large program which is broken down into smaller units are known as functions. A function is a small unit of a group of program statements. A function is a subprogram that acts on data and often returns a value. That is a definition of what a function is. And the advantages of functions are: functions make program handling easier, as only a small part of the program that is avoiding ambiguity. That means it helps us to have a simple program. It avoids ambiguity, and the functions reduce the program size. Since it can be called from any part of the program, it reduces the size of the program, and functions make a program readable and understandable. That is, program management is also easier. These are the advantages of our functions. Now, the structure of our function is this way. We will be writing df clc something, then in a bracket x, and don't forget to put a semicolon. And here in this particular line, I have only two statements. The first statement is r is equal to, it is an expression, and it's returning a value. So your structure of a function, or your definition of a function, this particular, the whole thing is known as a definition of a function. Def means a function definition started. Then after you write def, you'll have to give the name of your function. So according to my example here, the name of my function is calc something, and what is written in a bracket is the arguments, or we call it as a parameter. And after that, you will write a colon, and you will write in the next line the particular function that your function definition that you want your function to perform. So here, according to this line, r is equal to 2 into x to the power 2. So whatever is the x value, you have to take a square of that, and you will multiply it with 2, and that value will be returned. So that will be the operations what your function will be performing. So this particular, whatever you're writing inside your function, is known as the body of your function, and it will always end with a return statement. So this is how your structure works. Then how do we call? As I said earlier, a function can be called from any part of the program. So how do we call, or how does it work? So the syntax for a function call statement will be like this. You will write the function name. That means a point to be noted here is a function on its own cannot perform anything unless it is called from somewhere, from some other part of your program. So function name, you'll write value to be passed to the argument. So for example, the earlier example that I've written was df calc something, and in the bracket I've written x. So suppose if my argument, or the value that I wanted to pass for the x value is 5. So if you pass the value 5 to your calc something, then it will perform that calculation. That means 5 into 5 to the power 5 is 25. 25 multiplied by 2. So you should be getting this 50. And or suppose if I write a is equal to 7 and tell something a, now by you can even pass a variable this way. Okay, so a is equal to 7. That means when I write calc a will take the value 7. So this is the same as writing a into x to the power x to the power 2. That means 7 to the power 2, 49 multiplied by 2. So you should be getting this output. So this is the way you can invoke or call the functions that you have defined from the program, from another part of your program. So how does it really work? The flow of execution in a function call is this way. The flow function refers to the order in which statements are executed during the program run. That means here I have defined my function. My function name is func, and it is returning some value. So after this is the end of my function, and after that only comes my main part, the main program part. So I may have written so many lines here. Now only when your compiler, your Python compiler sees this function C, when I write this, it will go back and search for my function definition, and then whatever value it has, it will return, and that value will be printed out. Since I'm calling with a print function here, so whatever output that is being stored here will be returned to our print statement. That is how it will work. Now to write an example program to add two numbers, suppose this is my program. I've written my function name as sum, and I wanted to add two numbers. So I will be passing two numbers x and y here, and s is equal to x plus y, and return. As that means my function sum will perform an addition of two whatever arguments or variable is passed, and it will store that in s, and it will return. Now this is the end of my function sum, and it does not perform, as I say, doesn't perform any calculation unless it is called from somewhere else. So when I write in my main program part, num1 is equal to float input, I'm asking the user to input any number for the first number stored in num1, and num2 is equal to again the same. I'm storing the second value. Now sum1 I'm storing by calling the function whatever num1 and num2 is passed here. Now as the compiler sees this, what it will do is it will go back to the sum here. Now it is storing the num1 and the num2 here. That means num1 will be representing x and num2 will be representing y. Then it will perform the addition of num1 and num2, and it will store the output here. After that, it will go back here. That means now after performing that calculation, it will go back to this line, and now it is stored in sum1. So after going to this line, it will go to the next line, print some of the two given numbers is, and sum1 will be stored. So let's see how this will be done practically. So I have tried in my ideally Python. So this is a program that I've written. And suppose after it is running properly without error, then you should see this message, because as I say, this is a function. It doesn't perform anything on its own. So first it will skip this and go to the main function. So num1 will be printed out, whatever I've written here, enter the first number. So suppose if I've entered, since it is storing a float value, 12.5, and in my second value num2 I'm storing 12, an integer. So no problem, you can input another float value as well. But just to show you that even though I've written float, I can even store an integer value. So the addition will be performed, and sum of the two given number is, so 24.5 will be printed out. So this, if you do it practically, this is the output which you will be seeing. Now another way, passing parameters is very important. The value that is being passed to a function code statement is known as the actual parameters, and the formal parameters are the value received in the function. So for example, here this define mult a and b, print ab. So this is my function. Though I say that it will always end with a return, though I don't have a return statement here, it will still work. So suppose if I write mult a, b, so this one a and b are the formal parameters. Whatever name that you give inside the definition of your function is known as a formal parameters or formal arguments. And inside your main program, the value that you pass to your function, these are known as the actual parameters. So these are the formal parameters, these are the actual parameters. That means the tree means A will get 3, B will get 4. So that 3 and 4 are known as the actual parameters, whereas what you have defined with inside your function is known as the formal parameters. There are three types of formal arguments. One is known as positional arguments. When a function code statement must match the number and order of arguments as defined in the function definition, that is known as positional arguments. What does that mean? Say, define check ABC. So my function name is ABC, and I'm passing three values A, B, and C. I can have main statement below that. Now suppose if I'm calling by passing another variable x, y, z, that means A will get x, B will get y, and z will get c. This is known as positional arguments. Now A will get 2, and then B will get x, and C will get y. and another one. Now A will get 5, B will get 5, sorry, A will get 2, B will get 5, and C will get 7. So this is known as when a function call must match the number and orders of your argument, that is known as positional arguments. And another one that we have is default argument or parameter. A parameter having a default value in function header becomes optional in function call. So function call may or may not have value for it. So like suppose my function name is simple interest SI. So I need PTR, principal, time, and rate. Now I have defined by default my rate value as 10%, so 0.10. Now when I call this simple interest function from somewhere else, see, SI interest is equal to SI. Suppose my principal value is 5,400 and my time is 2. This will still work. Why? Because even if I do not write, say function call may or may not have value. So if I suppose even if I do not write R, any value here, by default it will take this value. So these particular calculation will be performed taking your principal value as 4,000 and 5,400, and time period as 2 years, and the rate as what is already defined as your default function. Now another way I can write this, I can write the same line SI 6,100, 3 and 0.1. Here, see, my principal value is now 6,100, time is 3, and my rate is 0.15. This means now your whatever the default value that you define has now been overwritten, or it will not be taken anymore since you have written the value here. Okay, so that means your default value uh, can be taken if you don't define inside your function call. So here it will take us your PR 6,103. So it will no longer take the default value that you have defined according to this particular line. Then the keyword name arguments means that you can even define inside, like suppose we are using the same, that PTR, your simple interest, the name argument with assigned values being passed in a function call statement. So I can even write this way, my P is equal to 2,000 time is 2, this way. I can even index, or I can even give a name inside my argument. Inside my function definition. So this is the way I can write. So P is equal to 4, even though normally it may not be in the same order, even then it will still work. My time is here, my P value here, and my rate here, my maybe here. T is equal to 2, R is equal to, it will still work. This is known as a keyword or name arguments. Now it's possible to use multiple arguments typed together. See, like the simple interest function that I've already defined. I have principal, time, and rate. By default, I've already defined it as 10%. So this is legal, it will still work. And this will also work. Rate is now being changed, and a principal amount here, and this will still work. Here, you may be wondering why it is not working. It's because your positional argument that you define should always come before your index. Okay, so if you try writing like this, it will not work because this 5,000 is taken as a positional argument value. So it will not work. And here 5,000 is considered as a principal value. And again, I'm defining P again 2 times. So this will not work. And if I write this again, if you see this print 300, since there is no print in my function definition, so this will not work. So this is illegal as well. And here the value T is missing because 4,000 will be taken as a principal value and R as your rate of interest, and T is missing. So since I have to define, since I've defined my function with 3 arguments, if one of them is missing, then this will not work. So these are the example of how you can join even you can even join different arguments together. So this is known as a multiple argument type. Now the exercise which I want you to try is, maybe after you finish watching this, you can try this and let me know what are your answers. This is just an exercise just to test whether you have fully understand today's class or not. So do let me know if you have any problem or if you wanted to discuss about the topics that we have covered today. You can always keep in touch to me. Thank you so much.